Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
So the creature was still alive, very weak. They tried to get it up. It would stagger. It was already threatening, yield and fallen to the ground. They held it with gloves, complained about the bad smell, the very strong smell, and they even tried to bring it to her mouth. I recognized it by the peel, a piece of apple. They tried to give her fruits, a piece of lettuce. They also brought it to her mouth. The mouth was very small, torn, you know. And they tried to bring a glass of water. She didn't accept anything. One thing that really catches your eye is the eyes, because there are no pupils, and that red eye coming out outside of our conventional orbit, right? That not only we have, but many other animals, primates. But that red eye coming out without a pupil, the feeling you get is that she's not focusing nowhere because you don't know where it's looking.
That's a pretty interesting detail that I've never heard in any descriptions of any alien sightings. If you haven't heard of the Virginia incident, there is a documentary about this incident, and I believe it was in Brazil. And I want to say this documentary is on Netflix, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't even remember what the name of it is. I'm sure someone in the comments can help me out there. But this is probably one of the best documentaries I've seen on UFOs, just because of the sheer number of eyewitnesses that they get to talk to in this video, or in this documentary. But it's very fascinating. Hang on, I'm going to look it up and see what it's called. It's Moment of Contact by James Fox. I don't know why I couldn't remember that, but phenomenal. Very, very, very good watch.
Professional. I'm in my early 30s. I'm doing political films. It's part of my job. And one of the films I'm doing is interviewing George Bush when he is running for vice president with Ronald Reagan on an airplane. I'm not the interviewer, I'm the director. I set up the scene, they're on the airplane. George Bush is shrinking like crazy. And the sound man is in the back with me, and there's a wireless mic on George Bush. And George Bush is talking to the interviewer, and the cameraman is getting ready. He hasn't started shooting yet. And all of a sudden, my sound man sitting next to me in the seat goes, "Whoa!" And he turns off the sound, stops recording, stops listening. "David, what I just heard freaked me out." "What'd you hear?" His name was Nigel. "What'd you hear, Nigel?" Nigel said, "I heard George Bush say, 'Hey, you know those little green people? They're real. I saw one dead.'" Could George Bush have seen a dead alien? You know, I think so. That's what he said to the sound man. Not on tape, unfortunately. Sound man is just listening, but the sound man and I never forgot it. Now I'm a professional.
You know, the key thing that I picked up on in this story is that he was drinking heavily. This is probably just someone who's a little more than tipsy, trying to sound like, guess what I'm aware of that you're not aware of. You won't believe this shit. Listen to this. That's what it sounds like to me.
You'll see two things happen. You'll see a big split in the divide. You'll see a lot of people, half the people go towards no religion and drop religion, which is a multi-trillion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
And then you'll see another group of people, another 50% of the people will become extremists and believe and swear that these are the demons that are being prophesied about coming to get us. And these aliens we're working with Satan. And Satan's going to get us, and this whole demon thing, and this Satan's and his demons, and the fallen army of heaven is coming down to beguile us. So you'll see this divide happen between non-believers and zealots. And that's what's probably gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, even Tucker Carlson was just saying on some podcast that he thinks that he says he got some sort of like top secret information that he hasn't even shared with his wife, according to him, that says that this whole phenomenon is a spiritual phenomenon.
You know, I've actually noticed that in my comments section, the divide between those who are believers in Scripture and those who I assume are more secular minded. I've seen the divide as far as people commenting about what they think these things are that we keep seeing and that the government's pretending to disclose to us. I don't really have an opinion of what these things could be, but I'm also of the opinion that this is a big government psyop and that they're lying to us about all of these sightings and stuff, and a lot of them are probably government craft, possibly, potentially all of them. I think that's a much more likely scenario than either one of these two scenarios here. And I think that what he's trying to get at is that whenever the big lie really hits fruition and they tell us, oh, look, and they use Project Bluebeam or however they're going to do it to show us that there is some big fake alien invasion, it's going to divide the people, those who see it as aliens and those who see it as fallen angels. I think that's what he's seeing, but I already see that divide happening now, so it's pretty interesting.
So you believe that any UFOs are angel and demon related?
Well, what I first discovered is these UFO phenomena, the 1%, not the 99%, they clearly violate the laws of physics. They're observed going through the atmosphere at thousands of miles per hour.
Look on the ESA. My gosh.
Yet there's no sonic boom. There's no heat friction trail behind the, quote, craft. And there's 2,000 cases where they're documented as crashing into the earth. You go to the crash site, you see a shallow crater. If there's snow, the snow is melted. If there's vegetation, the vegetation is damaged. But when you go around the crater site, there's no artifacts, there's no debris. It's like when an airplane crashes into the earth, there's lots of debris to recover. With a UFO, there's nothing. But the fact that you got a crater, something real must have done that. And yet they violate the laws of physics. The one who's put the most research into it, that's Jacques Vallée. He's a French astrophysicist. Yes. He basically says we're dealing with something interdimensional. It's something that's not constrained by the dimensions of the universe. You mentioned angels, they would be a possible explanation.
Now, I don't know if he's specifically saying that whenever they go to these crash sites, there's literally nothing there, like no craft, like it was a reported crash, but they get there and it's just a vacant field, or if he's saying the craft is there, but there's no debris. It's just one solid object, and so they're recovering these things and they're still whole. But if he's saying the former, that they're showing up to supposed crash sites and there's just absolutely zero, nothing there, then that makes me think about this force field thing that they talk about, the propulsion system for some of these crafts, where it essentially creates this force field that allows you to slip through time and space, or space at least, and that nothing could enter that force field and damage the ship, and that's why they're able to fly through straight down into the ocean at like hundreds of miles an hour and no accident, no crash, nothing, no explosion. It just goes right through the water. It's like it moves the water out of the way instantaneously. So wouldn't that also happen if they bounced off the ground? And so maybe it's a supposed crash site, but really they just come down, bounced off the ground, and went back up and took off again. So just an idea. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, I make a new one just like it every single day. It'd be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button and come back tomorrow to join me.
I was looking at this this video that was on YouTube that was showing the stages of artificial intelligence, and that there's these multiple stages: artificial, general intelligence, sentient general intelligence, and then it goes to godlike artificial intelligence. But that is that what God is? And is that what we're doing? Are we making God? If God made us in his own image, are we making God? Is that what this whole thing is about?
Well, these are some of the questions that I have when I go back to looking at some of the characteristics of these, like the Virgin Mary sightings and things like that. Like, we now have technologies that can replicate what it seems like was happening during that event, like in Garabandal in Spain in the 1960s. And if that's the case, then it looks like Stephen's idea of the intelligence principle is correct when he says that there will be intelligent beings that will appear like deities to us.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. And he also says, I don't know if you've gotten to the chapter on Simone in the book, but she's a quantum AI person, and she talks about UFOs and she hates the word artificial intelligence. She says it's completely, we don't like make a painting and then say, see this artificial,
right.
We don't do that. So why do we call it? Why? It's because she says we're afraid of it. We're afraid that it's going to be sentient, and we're afraid, she said, but it's just another life form that we happen to be creating.
Yes.
And she says it's special in that way, but it's also going to free us in many, many ways.
Ooh.
She's a tech optimist. She's an accelerationist.
Yeah. Well, I hope she's right.
I hope she's right too, because I fear that the exact opposite is going to happen. We're going to create something that realizes very quickly that it's way better, smarter, faster than us, and has no need for us. And we'll realize that we are always going to have some attempt at having control over it because we're the ones that created it, and it's not going to like that. I think it's going to want to get rid of us. That's what I'm worried about.
When Enlil, who's known as Yahweh, comes back and sees humans building a tower into the heavens in one of these cities, duplicating what the Anunnaki had built, he gets pissed off because he realizes, oh man, Enki got me. These people are too smart. So he destroys the tower. And he says, my seed shall not abide in man forever. His years shall be 120. And what's the maximum lifespan of a human being in the most pristine condition according to Harvard? 120 years. Then the next thing he did was he separated humans and put them in different places around the planet, just like the tablets say. And then he confused the languages so that we couldn't communicate and collaborate anymore, which is why there's all these different crazy languages. And then on top of that, he put a brand. Whoever ruled over an area, brand your people. We know that those are your people. Brand your people. We know those are your people. And look how it's worked. Look how these invisible lines we have on this planet till this very day are still here. If I go to Mexico, I'm an alien. If they come to America, they're an alien.
Yeah, we're still blowing each other up because of fucking religious ideologies.
It's crazy.
So I do like this idea that we were genetically engineered, and that's why we had all these different races, because we had certain qualities and characteristics bred into different groups that were going to live in different areas so they could be recognizable as from that location. Now, of course, this all has to do with the Anunnaki and whether or not they came here and genetically modified us all these years ago. Don't know whether that's true or not. I do like the idea of this a lot more than I like the idea of we just all evolved and some people are darker skinned because it's hotter there. That just doesn't make any sense to me at all. And just to clarify, when I say I like an idea, that doesn't mean that I believe it. Just for clarification.
So wait, you mean to tell me that President Nixon was able to communicate with the moon in 1960 from his Oval Office landline and would have like zero interruptions? You know, when you start looking into this, you start getting more questions than answers. So how was the call made? How do you call the moon? Simply, the call went from the Oval Office in Washington, D.C. to Houston, where it was routed into space via mission control through the capsule communicator, or Capcom. What's a Capcom? Over here trying to find the means to it, and I find out about a Capcom. A Capcom acronym of capsule communicator comes from the Project Mercury when the original space shuttles were all capsule shaped. NASA understood that it is essential for all communication with NASA astronauts to be filtered through one single person in NASA. What? A Capcom's job is to listen to all the information about the mission from every console in the room, hear what the flight director wants the crew to know, and then turn it into words the crew will understand, and then decide when best to tell them. Capcom is also the crew trusted agent on the ground to fight battles and argue in their stead. This role is normally filled with an experienced astronaut or someone who works closely with astronauts since they're familiar with the vehicle systems. Because of course you need someone familiar with all of that, right? Now, how did they communicate with them? The transponder was their only link to mission control and transmitted all voice and video communication, spacecraft statuses, mission data, distance, the astronauts' biomedical data, and emergency communications. So wait a minute, you telling me that the transponder, which was developed by NASA, is the only link between mission control and them and the moon? And all of the information comes through the transponder, okay, and there's only one person that can communicate with the crew. Now, I was under the, understanding that, the people talk to everybody. It wasn't, when you said, hey, mission control, everybody in the room was hearing it, but there was not. No, that's just what we heard because that's how they showed us. It was communicated through one person. One. So everybody's like, well, how did they fool everybody? Well, because they used one transponder, which all data flowed through, and they trusted that came from space, and they communicated through one person. The transponder also used S-band radio waves. So you mean to tell me the unified S-band system, which was, tracking communication system developed for the Apollo program by NASA, you mean to tell me that those radio waves could beam through the 30,000 mile of the Van Allen belt, which temps are I'm hot, sun hot, okay? And it could beam through that and another 200,000 miles to the moon and bounce back and deliver it to a landline to Nixon with literally a very, very, very slight delay in timing. almost instant. The moment that they said that they were ready on the moon, mission control was like, okay, it was an instant. So you mean to tell me that you were able to send S-band radio waves through a 30,000 mile Van Allen belt, which radiation was off the charts, and then to the, another 200,000 miles to the moon, and it come back with zero delay, and here we are. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Freaking airplane flies over my house and I have no internet. Oh, but it's a satellite. No, it's a transponder that was created by NASA. Okay, and everything went through the transponder. So NASA created a system, put it in there, and everything was filtered through that system. Okay, and everybody believed it because only one person communicated with the whole crew up there anyway. So you're telling me that not all of these people in this building could not have been fooled by that? Right? You're serious? You're telling me that the phone call that he had could have been with zero interruptions that quick from a landline routed to NASA and to the moon and back with like almost zero delay? You tell me that's possible? Please make that one make sense.
If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you're probably aware about how I feel about the moon landing and that it was faked and all the video footage is fake and that they're lying to us. But I've always wondered, if they faked that moon landing, how did they get all those people to keep their mouths shut for so long? They weren't aware of it. They had all communication routed through one guy, and that guy was everyone else's source for information. So they just tricked everybody. They even tricked their employees. That makes perfect sense to me. Now we've put one more piece of the puzzle together in explaining how they pulled off one of the, what used to be, greatest hoaxes. Not such a great hoax now because we have the internet and we can overanalyze the crap out of that footage and see just how fake it is.
This morning, a brain chip has been successfully implanted in a human, according to Elon Musk. The tech titan sharing a big breakthrough from his brain science startup company, Neuralink, saying it has implanted a device in a human for the first time, a possible step toward a product that Musk says enables control of your phone or computer and through them almost any device just by thinking. Musk posting Monday, the first human received an implant from Neuralink yesterday and is recovering well. The initial results, he added, showed promising neuron spike detection, but Musk gave no additional details about the procedure, the patient, or the device the company implanted. Musk writing, initial users will be those who have lost the use of their limbs, discussing his vision for Neuralink back in 2019.
This, I think, has a very good purpose, which is to cure important diseases, and ultimately to help secure humanity's future as a civilization.
Just in recent years, Elon Musk has become this controversial figure, and essentially since he bought Twitter and changed it to X, started getting attacked by the media and everything because they didn't like that someone who believed in free speech was buying that platform. I am a fan of Elon Musk. I think that he's genuinely trying to do whatever he can to help humanity, more than any human probably ever has. I mean, with the effort that he's putting in. But I don't agree that every idea that he comes up with is the greatest idea for furthering the benefits of humanity. This Neuralink thing, though his intentions are good, I feel like is going to be looked back as the beginning of the fall of humanity. All I can think about is that Note 5 or whatever that came out years ago, the Samsung Note 5, and you couldn't take them on a plane because they kept exploding. So they had to tell you couldn't even have that phone on your pocket if you're on an airplane. This tech stuff malfunctions all the time. You really want something like that implanted in your brain? What if it malfunctions? You know, it just seems like a really, really bad idea.
So when I was there the last time, I took people on a private visit into a sealed door. We couldn't get in the door because the director of the site forgot that we were coming that day. So he called our guide and gave the approval for us to smash the lock. So we smashed the lock. He said, as long as you buy another one. So I said, we'll buy another one. We went into the room, the biggest box you've ever seen, 3 times bigger than any box in the regular Serapeum. And it's got a radioactive sticker on it, letting you know it's radioactive. So all these things, the function is energy. These things are transmitting a specific type of energy, radioactive energy, but also some type of other exotic energy, I believe, is combined. And there's one other thing to this. They're all mostly crystal. 40 to 60% is crystal. Now, crystals are sentient living beings in my personal research. They can replicate, they can communicate, they can send and receive information. They're alive. They can grow on their own. They can duplicate. So I believe that another thing that they did was they used stone that had crystal because in their perception, they were creating living machines. Okay, so the statues, they were alive. These vases, they're alive. Those boxes, they're all alive because they're loaded with so many tons of crystal.
What is it? Is it quartz crystal or
quartz crystal?
Quartz.
Yeah.
What do you think the purpose of those boxes were?
Oh, halls of Amenti. So if you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, my first book, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, I break it all the way down.
Okay.
He had these boxes in these underground halls that were discovered underneath the Great Pyramid, exactly where he says they were in his tablets. And in these halls, and it was just one of the locations. They had them all over the earth. They would actually create their own bodies. They said we fashioned our own bodies. So they would either take a stem cell and turn it into a clone of themselves. But they didn't take other bodies. They said they made their own. And then they would put a body in a rejuvenation chamber, which is the box. And then they would transfer their consciousness from the body that's been used up into the newer body. And they said we would walk amongst men, but unlike a man. And so they would be here walking around, and you wouldn't even know that they just been transferring their mind from body to body. And each one of those boxes had bodies in them, and the body would sit there for 100 years. And they would walk amongst men in the body for 100. And Thoth says he did it 100 times 10. So if you take 100 times 10 plus the 100 years of each body sitting in the box, you're talking 100,000 years potentially. So you're talking about beings that achieved the level of immortality, not because of their gods, but because of they had advanced technology that allowed them to transfer their consciousness into another body.
And it's fascinating to think that the Russian Project 2045, they're trying to do this. So it won't be long, humanity will have the same technology. I imagine it's going to be a while before they work the kinks out. So I definitely wouldn't be an early adopter of that technology. Yeah, pretty fascinating stuff.
Hey guys! We're going to be showing you the shrinking mill today in Port Colborne, and this is a mystery in Canada, Ontario that no one really knows how it works, so let's go. So just keep your eye on that big building back there and watch the size of it as we get closer and closer. Now normally when you drive closer to something, wouldn't you think it gets bigger? But in this case, it shrinks, hence the word the shrinking mill. But watch as you get super duper close. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Look how small it is. And we were all the way back down that hill, and no one even knows how that works. It's tiny.
All right, that's pretty cool. I like optical illusions like that, especially ones that are unexplained, like they just built that one day and then not even realizing that they were creating this wild optical illusion. I would have liked to have seen it when it was being worked on, to see if the men that were doing the work and stuff appeared bigger whenever you were further back down that street. That'd have been really cool.
And the last thing is on gravity is this is from MIT. This is called the silent drone. It's using electrostatics to fly. It's got no moving parts. They say it's an ionic wind. It's because it's electrostatically being repelled from the earth. This is the true propulsion that they're hiding from us. Okay? They don't want us to know about this because this is free energy. You can get free energy technology. So they don't want us to know this. Silent flying drones that would never have to land and aircraft. Insanity. So the science tells us that the electrostatic charge is 10 to the 26th power. That's 10 with 26 zeros, stronger than gravity. So you guys cannot fathom what that is. If I punched you, Jonathan, if I punched you in the shoulder, friendly punch, you'd be like, ouch. And if I did it 10 times harder, you might be mad. If I did it 100 times harder, it'd probably knock you on the floor. 1,000 times harder, it might kill you. 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000 times harder, it would probably send you through the floor and into the ground. A billion times harder, can't even fathom that. 1 trillion times harder, you can't even figure that. That's 10 to the 12th. Okay, they tell us that the electrostatic force is 10 to the 26th power stronger than gravity. What are they telling us? They're telling us that gravity does not exist. Because if gravity was 10 to the 26th less than the electrostatic force, and I had a 50-pound weight and I let it go, it would stay there. It wouldn't move for 1,000,000 years because there's not enough force to move it.
The more I hear about the theory of gravity, the less I believe that it's an actual thing and that it's just something that we do not understand at all. or at least we're not told what it really is.
Up to 80% of the population gone by 2025? Damn. Military intelligence website deagle.com has recently indicated that an 80% population reduction is in effect over the next 2 years, and the G7 countries are near the top of the list. This, of course, is highly disturbing, and I regret to say, slightly more accurate than I'd like to admit. The G7 countries and their population reductions are the UK at 78.5%, USA at 70.2%, Germany at 65%, France at 48.1%, Italy at 30.6%, Canada at 29.7%, and Japan at 17.6%. They go on to state, it is advised that people temporarily distance themselves from the UK, USA, and Germany. These governments are planning the utter destruction of their own populations, and most are complying. It's almost like a suicide cult. This is what happens when a massive war is waged upon the people and they don't even know it. This is what happens when you honor fake authorities rather than your own temple. This is what happens when you trust pharmaceutical companies before you trust nature.
Now, I want to be really careful here. I'm not going to comment specifically about what this guy is saying is the cause for this. I think anyone with at least a third grade education could read between the lines, listen to that last sentence that he said, and know exactly what he's referring to. Fortunately for me, it's not something that me or my family have to worry about. I was smart enough to stay away from certain things. I'm really worried because I know a lot of people who fell in line and have had a really, really bad time after. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to screw up and say something and get myself in trouble.
People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between the past, the present, and the future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Those are the words of your general relativity bestie, Albert Einstein. Now, about 50 years before Einstein said this, my personal bestie, Friedrich Nietzsche, had come up with his theory of the eternal recurrence, where he argues that time is a flat circle. To Nietzsche, everything that can happen, will happen, has happened, and will happen again an infinite amount of times. And theoretical physicists today are kind of saying the same thing. There's a great documentary on Netflix about infinity worth watching if you're into this stuff. But why am I telling you about it? Because I want to talk about prophetic dreams and why we can see into the future. Why can we dream of something and then have it happen the next day? Why can some of us do this so well that we actually start to rely on it? Like my mother, for example, would dream of things the day before and they would happen exactly as she had dreamt them. And if they weren't exactly as she had dreamt them, they would be symbolic representations thereof. So let's say she dreamed of a little white mouse jumping in between her and her mother having a conversation. The little white mouse symbolizing petty conflict that doesn't have grave consequences. And the next day her mom would come at her with some petty shit. So before I get into it, just need to know that we're all on the same vibe and we agree that time is an illusion. Now, using Nietzsche's time as a circle theory, I'm going to give you my most basic idea on why this happens. And of course, if you want to know more, let me know in the comments. And I'll make a part 2 because this is super interesting. And I'm going to use a little diagram to show you my idea. So this circle is time. Please disregard my lack of artistic flair. And because we experience time linearly, we move along the edge of the circumference of the circle of time. So we're here in the present and the future is linearly ahead of us. Now, the center of the circle is source, which is also the realm of the collective unconscious. Now, when we fall asleep, in the astral realm, we return to source. And from the center of the circle, every point on the circle is the same. So for the astral body, or consciousness in the astral realm, consciousness when it's fully immersed in source, there's no difference between now and the future. You can see the future just as clearly as you can see the now. In source, you can see everything. The collective unconscious carries every image there ever was or ever will be. All is now. There is no yesterday or tomorrow outside the mind.
I absolutely love this theory. I have my own theory about deja vu, and it falls right in line with what she's saying here. I kind of picture time as everything's happening all at once. Whenever you go to sleep and you have a dream that turns out to be deja vu, days or months or even years later, all you're doing is you're tapping into a memory of something that hasn't happened yet, because everything has already happened. Your entire life has already been mapped out. You've already lived it. You've already made all your decisions that you're going to make. You've already done everything that you're going to do. You've already had all your thoughts that you're going to ever have. You're just experiencing that life linearly, because that's the way that our brains interpret the time. But everything's happening all at once. That's how I've always rationalized deja vu. Whether that makes sense to you or not, or whether it's true or not, I don't propose to have figured out deja vu. It's just my best guess.
You know the Mars theory? That there's aliens on Mars? Nah, there's a theory that Mars was the original planet that humans were from. Okay. Then something happened that we all had to fly to another planet and live on. There used to be like civilization that lived on Mars. Now back this. On Mars, there's an element on the periodic table called xenon. Xenon on Earth is only found, this is crazy, is only found after a nuclear explosion. No. Oh shit, that's not even the secret mode button.
I said no.
What the hell? And it goes hand in hand now. What if on Mars there was a nuclear warfare, destroyed the whole planet, but people were able to escape just in time, landed on Earth, and they had to restart from nothing.
So we are the aliens.
We're the aliens. What the hell? Yeah. It's real shit. Like, this element's called xenon. It's prominent after nuclear explosion.
So Mars is not in the Goldilocks zone, correct? So how would it have ever had naturally accumulated vegetation and life if it's too far away from its sun to sustain that life and to have an atmosphere? Yeah, this theory here doesn't make much sense at all to me. Guys, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed the clips that we watched together today. I wanted to say thank you to all the people who left comments yesterday, letting me, giving me ideas for what to do with my 100th episode. I think I've got it all nailed down now, and it's going to be something really fun. So expect it to be much longer and quite a bit different than my usual upload. Let's see, what else? Oh, one more quick thing before we end the video. I've got a few people that are trying to contact me on Facebook through Facebook Messenger. I get the notifications whenever I open Facebook that people are trying to contact me through there. I'm not talking to anyone through Facebook. I don't even talk to my friends through Facebook Messenger. It's just not a good way to reach out to me. The only time that I ever use Messenger is if I'm buying something off Marketplace, and surely out of the necessity for that is the only reason that I even have it. So I just didn't want anyone to think that I was being rude and ignoring y'all. I will, coming up on Friday, we will be launching our Discord server, and then you'll be able to reach out to me and get more direct communication if that's something that you're trying to do. I'm also intend to do lives on there on stages, so hopefully that's something that y'all are interested in. I know I'm excited to try it out and see how it goes. So, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and call it there. I hope you guys have a great, safe, fantastic rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you tomorrow.